Hello again, guys and gals. I am Jim Bob. Welcome back to Big Bud Farm, and I have been insanely busy on this farm doing a lot of contract work over the last couple of days, just to make sure that I have everything kind of prepped and ready for today's episode. While we were last here, we were starting our ploughing. So this here is the state of the fields now. As you can see, they're all ploughed. And I said that I would try and extend field 1 a little bit as well. So you can see here, if I line up, that is the edge of the field. Just there. And this is the extra bit that I've ploughed in on that headland there. I've also slightly widened the field, but only by an extra row or two. And then down here, you can see that we have also extended the field at the bottom there as well, with another extended section. I've cleaned up the edges of field 3 as well. Couldn't really do anything with field 5 in the end, but all of our fields are now ploughed and ready for replanting. So first things first, we need to get underway with some cultivating. We're going to use our big bud. That is the new official name for the 747, the big bud. And I'm just going to put some twin wheels on that. So I like to keep a spare toolbox in the 747 hangar, just because it makes it easier to switch the wheels over for this particular tractor, like so. Given the size of this thing, it won't fit in our sort of impromptu workshop just around the corner. So now that we have twin wheels on this, we're going to grab our new cultivator, our flexi coil, and we're going to cultivate our fields. We're also going to quickly fertilise them, and then we're going to start laying down some seed. And we need to make sure that we plant barley, and we're also going to plant a new crop. And the eagle-eyed of you may have spotted something in the menu system just a moment ago. We're going to be planting sugar beets. This is the reason why I've been so busy and putting in so many hours on contract work, over 12 hours of contracting work to raise additional funds. In fact, it's probably closer to about 15, 16 hours that I've been putting in contract work to raise the required funds needed for the changes that we're making in this episode. So let's just get our cultivator unfolded. This thing is huge, absolutely huge. There we go. And get our worker off and away. And while he's doing that, we are going to grab our fertilizer unit, and we're going to start fertilizing our fields as well. So we'll have a little bit of a lead time with our cultivator, let that get going and cultivating away before we go ahead and start fertilizing. And then we're going to be, as I say, we're going to be planting. So we have a pretty much full tank, which is good. We are going to need it. Just to give us a little bit of a lead time, I'm actually going to start fertilizing on field 1 first. So by the time that we're done on that, the other 2 fields will both be cultivated, and will have started cultivating probably on field 1 as well. So I'll join you on the bottom of field 1 to get this underway, and then we'll get our seeder kind of lined up and prepped as well. And so here we are pulling into the bottom of field 1. You can see there we have our silos. There's our mill in the background, a couple of other bins parked up. Our new look little area over there is starting to take some shape quite nicely. But we are going to be spreading fertilizer here. Not quite lined up. Let's try that again. we go. That's better cut. Oh, it's still a little short, I think. Let's try now. Yeah, that's better. So there we go. We've got our fertiliser spreader off and away. He's going to start working this field nice and quickly. We don't need to cultivate field 1. Not field 1, sorry. This is field 1. We don't need to cultivate field 5, because obviously our seeder can do that for us if we use our Terminator seeder setup. But to plant soybean, then... not soybean, sorry, sugar beet, obviously we won't be using the Terminator. We'll have to use the Great Plains, which is why I want the cultivation going on field 1. Sorry, on field 5. Field 3 even. Get the right field name in just a moment. Field 3 obviously needs to be cultivated the correct way. And on field 1, we're also going to go and plant something a little bit different as well. So we're going to go and plant some sunflowers this time out. You know, it's a decent money crop. We did the test with canola last time out. We got 433,000 litres, and this time we're going to see how much we can do with our sunflowers instead. But it's such a big field on field 1 that there's no way that our little seeder can cope with that on its own. So we're going to be using a slightly different setup for the first time. We're actually going to be using our seed tank attached like this. This is going to be our default setup, so that we massively increase. We pretty much almost triple the capacity of our seeder by doing this. We take it from 5,800 to a little under 15,000. We don't have to worry about fertiliser, because obviously the Great Plains YP2425A does not have capability to disperse fertiliser. So we don't have to worry about making sure that we have a full tank on that. It won't get used at all. But what we can do, obviously, is really make sure that we have plenty of seed. Let's go ahead and actually change the seed. We want sugar beets, first of all, to do field 3. And then on top of that, we're going to need, say, sunflowers for field 1 as well. So while this is quickly refilling, I'm going to show you just the other part of why I did so much work, and that's because we needed to buy some new equipment. And here it all is. So we have ourselves a Holmer Pterados here, the large one, the in-game Pterados, not the slightly smaller modded version. But we are using the modded 12-row header as opposed to the 9-row header that we would normally have. And to go with that is the larger modded 12-row header trailer as well. We also have ourselves a Terra variant, and we also have a beet tank to go with that as well. And then we have a hook lift bale trailer. Why would we have a hook lift bale trailer, and why would we have a hook lift frame from the BSM 850? Have we bought an 850? No, we haven't, is the simple answer. What we are going to do, which will require a quick trip over the hill and hopping a fence and grabbing the Massey, is we are going to turn our little Holmer Terra variant into a hook lift. And this is something I experimented with as soon as the 850 came out. The first thing I did was obviously play about with the 850 with the hook, and then once I'd finished recording the episode of of American Outback, I then leased. Once I'd saved my game file, I leased, as an experiment, a Terra variant to see whether or not I could actually do it. And then just lowered that frame, because it's too low, you can't drive underneath. I lowered it on top of our Terra variant there, and it worked. It would allow me to attach. So it's a little bit clunky trying to get it attached, because you have to basically use some kind of claw setup like this to be able to raise it and lower it onto the vehicle itself. As I said, it sits so low to the ground it's designed for the truck, that while it is compatible with the Terra variant, it's not designed for the Terra variant. It's designed for the 850. So what we need to do is basically kind of clamp it a little bit, like so. Very carefully, just kind of lower it over the top. And it is going to wobble, and it is going to complain a little bit. But I've done this so that we have a dedicated bale transport system for our, well, pallet system really, for our sheep. So let's get our Terra variant in position. Oops. Be really careful with the positioning on this. That should do it. Like very carefully kind of lower this into position, like so. This is awkward. Let's try that. That should be about right. And there you can see that these legs are fully extended, and look how far off the ground they are. There is no way you can drive under it. It isn't possible. But ta-da! We have a hook lift. We have a hook lift Terra variant. And just to show you that it does actually work. There we go. So this thing does have slightly more limited application than you know, the 850 Legend, which is obviously designed to be a hook lift. Because this sits quite high up, it does mean that you will have some issues loading and unloading things like grain. It can be a bit of a problem trying to get grain into one of these things with a large grain container on the back, because the container ends up sitting so high that sometimes loading into it can be a problem. And then obviously when it comes to unloading, it can be a real problem as well sometimes, because it gives you that extra height when you go to any kind of tip point if there is a cover over the top of it, as there are on quite a few on mats like this in American Outback, where you have sell points with a kind of a roof over the tipping ramp. Then that extra height becomes a real issue once you start to actually tip your grain. So it is something to definitely be wary of. But as you can see, we do have a fully functioning Terra variant hook lift truck, which I think is just fantastic. It's a kind of an added side effect that wasn't necessarily expected. And I got the idea from having seen the fact that the Terra variant attachments, like the beat truck, like the beat auger that we've got back at the store, that is compatible with the Legend 850. When they previewed the Legend 850 before they actually released it, Black Sheep showed a little shot of it actually using some of the Holmer Terra variant style leg pop-up devices, and I thought, I bet you could attach Terra variant pieces to the BSM truck and they'll work absolutely fine. And lo and behold, you can. And then I thought, well, what about if you do it the other way around? What if you try and put the hook lift on the Terra variant? And of course, that works too. Although, as I said, requires a little bit of finagling, simply because it is a little bit trickier with the height of the Terra variant compared to how high the pallet goes. You will occasionally get a few little weird issues with it as well. Like I said, it's not entirely designed for this, but it will function, and it does give you an extra hook lift option effectively. So there we go. We have a Holmer Terra variant hook lift. So as we position our seeder, I've dropped the tank off just there. We'll pick it up again once we finish this field and then head over to field 1. But this is going to be our first ever beet planting on Big Bud Farm. Really looking forward to seeing our Holmer equipment in action, and we will be hiring a fertilise when we come to actually clean up after our harvest, so that we can scoop up all of those beets. In between the time that everything is growing, what I'm going to be doing is actually constructing a beet area. So just check in on this at the moment. That's going quite well. This is almost finished. So when I say I'm going to be constructing a beet area, if I just jump out for a second, I need to go to the map. I'll let everything here do what it needs to do and get finished off. Down here by Small Farm, and in between here and Field 5, is a gated off kind of fenced off field that we have a single access area into. And it's one of those sort of grassed areas that we can go in and just do whatever we want kind of thing. And this is going to become the center of my beet operations. So we're going to have in here an equipment shed. We're going to use the mountain horse package so that we have somewhere to store our Holmer equipment. We're also going to store some other little bits and bobs down here. We'll have a grain tank down here. We'll have a fertilizer tank down here. We will also have lots and lots of placeable silos, but not the ones that we've already used. We'll be using the root crop storage mod, which, if I can find it, it's the other way, is this one here, the root crop storage, which costs $90,000 each, but holds 300,000 litres. We are going to need lots of those. We're going to probably need, I would say, 10 of those, but certainly at least 2 or 3 to get us started, and then they are going to go sort of along the opposite edge to our storage, and that is where everything's going to sit. So we have a little bit of field left over to cultivate. That's a tiny strip. It's not worth the hassle. Our seeder will cope just fine without having to do that thin little strip. So we're going to take this now over to field 1. Hopefully traffic won't be an issue, and we'll be able to sneak our way through despite having this wide setup. I would normally change the wheels off, but given how wide this cultivator is, we're going to have to do some creative driving anyway. So I've spoken to the farmer, and he's quite fine with us just cutting across his field like this, as long as we stick to the edge, because it's freshly planted sunflowers on there. Obviously we don't want to disturb the seed bed, so we'll be kind of just driving along the edge here and then cutting across the headland at the bottom, and then using that to quickly nip across onto field 1. Now, I was going to go straight onto the field, but I've just seen the fuel tank, and I don't know if I have enough fuel to actually do this job in its entirety. So we're going to make a quick pit stop here at the re-emerging depot down here. As I say, we've got a little bit more work to do down here to turn this into a second kind of farmyard. With the placeable farmhouse now, we have the option to actually make that a little bit more. Let's actually do that. Let's take a look at putting in a placeable farmhouse. So that mod went live very recently as well. Where is the placeable? Obviously we have the street lights as well. We could add some street lights into the yard if we wanted to. I might play about with street lights, but here it is. Here is the barren house. So I just need to figure out where we can place this. Obviously that's not really a viable spot anymore. There's no reason why we couldn't put it just here, I suppose. Let's see. Or maybe here on the entrance. Put it just there, for example, perhaps. I don't think this will actually sit very well if we put it on anything other than a flat surface. So that's something I need to take into consideration. Maybe plonking it just here. Yeah, let's plonk it just there. I think that could work quite well. still fertilising away there, as you can see. Helper E is blocked by an object, which is helper E. Where are you, helper E? Of course. Our seed tank is in the way. Should have seen that one coming. Fuel is a bit low on this thing as well. That'll definitely need a refuel between seeding sessions. We'll get him back underway. There we go. Our other one is going absolutely fine. That's getting a little low on fuel as well. So all of our big buds are a little bit thirsty at the moment. This one's still going away. Let's check out our farmhouse. See how this looks. And it doesn't look too... no, it's hovering, isn't it? Yeah. Not the best place to put it, hovering off the ground like that. And obviously, the way we've placed it means it's actually, because of where we've positioned it, it's sticking up. And then that should be at ground level. So obviously, we've made a complete mess of that. We're gonna have to get rid of that. So let's scroll through our owned equipment, see if we can find that Bowen house. There it is. So we'll sell it. It's dirt cheap. You know, it's only a couple of thousand. So there you can see 3,500 each. They're not really expensive at all. But yeah, we did not position that very well at all there. So let's see if we can find somewhere else. Obviously that hasn't worked. Maybe just here. Yeah, let's put it just here in the corner. That works. Works for me. There we go. So there is our Bowen house. As we make our way over, we should be getting pretty close to having a full fuel tank. It can take quite a while for the 747 to actually finish refueling. Such a big fuel tank. Nope, it's still going. You can hear it. So here we go. There is our Bowen house. So we have a door here on the side. That's quite nice. A door here just there as well. And no door on that side, which is good, and no door on that side as well. So we've actually placed that, without even trying, we've actually placed that the right way round as well, which has worked out really, really nicely for us. So there we go. Yeah, there is our Bowen house to kind of help add a little bit more life and detail into this area here. Oh, and now we've finished refueling. So let's get our cultivator to work. Just back up a little bit. Still seriously contemplating bringing 747 down here. Although I do like having its own sort of, you know, specific shed back over at the main farm there. I don't know. Maybe I might leave it here on occasion when I know I've got multiple jobs it's going to be needed for. But the next thing I'm going to be saving up for is a Seed Hawk unit, and we'll probably replace our Terminator unit with that. So we'll get lined up on our slightly extended field 1, both lengthways and widthways, with very smooth, clean edges as well. I didn't get the chance to go as far wide as I wanted to on this thing. If I just move out of the way. You can see obviously here, this is the patch where I've rolled back. And the reason I've done that is because these, you know, you can see we've got little patches of grass showing up here, these tufts of green. This sort of washed out paler green here that you can just make out. That is actually kind of like the crop texture. But these sort of more intense green shades here, these are unmovable blocks. So here's the difference. You can see this here is actually part of the grass texturing, so that can be removed. But this stuff here, this different shade of green, this is kind of indestructible. So you can see that I originally had gone all the way out, and then this was poking up through the fields, and so I had to roll back so that we didn't have these clumps of grass just sticking up in parts of the fields. But there we go. We've got fertilisation and cultivation going on over here. And the reason we're fertilising first is because to keep parity with our barley crop, which we're going to be planting on field 5, obviously the Terminator will fertilise as it plants as well. So by fertilising first on the other 2 fields and then using our Great Plains seeder, which doesn't fertilise, we're keeping parity so that all 3 of our fields will still need just 2 stages of fertilisation to finish them. So I thought while we were sort of getting our cultivating, fertilising and seeding underway, I'm relying on workers for those because I'm tired of driving up and down those fields manually. I've just spent the last 15, 16 hours doing that, so I'm taking a quick break from that, allowing me to sort of do some other things. I figured we'd actually start loading up some of our wool. So I'm just going to switch steering modes. There we go, so it's just 2-wheel steering. You need to be very careful if you do the hook lift thing like this because, as you can see on the bottom right corner, we currently have the hook lift itself selected so that we can hold down L1 and then press X to raise and lower the arm. And if I just pressed X on its own, that would pop that off the back. Not normally an issue with any attachment for the Terra variant because they would just pop up on stilts and then we could just reattach, but because this doesn't fit and isn't designed specifically for this piece of equipment, because it basically just wobble and balance on the back, there's a risk it might slip off completely. So you need to be very careful and make sure that you have not got that selected if you're going to press X to detach something. We're going to detach our little trailer here like so and just move out of the way so we don't pop the frame off the back by mistake. And now we're just going to start putting some of these pallets on. So I need to figure out which one's which actually. Where are we on wool pallets? One of these is at 78%, which is pretty terrible actually. It makes it really hard for us to figure out which one's which. The easiest way would be to simply just drive the forks in and see what the fill level is on that particular pallet, I suppose. But one of these 2 pallets in front of us is a partial pallet, and that's the one we're going to leave behind. And it's not this one. Okay, that's good. So these trailers, they have enough for 5 rows comfortably with a little bit of spacing. And then beyond that, well, they're designed for bales primarily, so you could probably possibly fit an extra pallet on, although I'm not entirely sure whether that's the case or not. But the straps, as you can see, are located where they are to allow you to put down 5 stacks mounted widthways rather than, the length going across the trailer. So you'd have the narrow part of the bale in line with our wheel loader or our telehandler here, and then the straps would go slap bang in the middle of those like so. But it's not quite long enough for you to get a 6th stack in that way. I say it's deliberate because of the way the straps are positioned, but it would have been nice, I think, if we could have possibly squeezed an extra set of bales on, but it's just a fraction too short for us to do that. Let's see if we can just nudge that back ever so slightly. There we go. Probably nudge that ever so slightly too far, actually. Let's get the next pallet lined up. It's fiddly when you're trying desperately not to knock other pallets out the way as well. And you've got something that's as twitchy as a centrally jointed vehicle like this. The slightest little input in the steering can completely change your approach angle. So I can go like that, and then I can just twitch like this, and it can seriously impact where the bale is going to go, because you can see just how much that pallet pivots just from the tiniest little input in the steering there. Whoop, steady. That was nearly quite bad. And there we go. So we are going to just ever so gently nudge that other trailer, or the other bale, just a little bit more, if we can. If I can get to it. We might have to move our forage harvester just there. And that's something else we might look at as well. We might do a quick corn harvest on one of these fields at some point to raise forage and get a corn header for one of these. Because obviously we've got the mowing header there, the disc header, the X disc. But we might look into getting a corn header for one of these as well. Let's just nudge that forward just a bit more. Beautiful. There we go. That'll do. Let's strap those down. And we'll get that final pallet that needs to be moved out of the way. If you haven't already seen it, Black Sheep have been working on a low loader trailer attachment for the hook lift as well, which we won't be using with this particular farm, but we may well use on American Outback if it comes out before Outback finishes, and if not, we'll probably use it on another farm as well. The really nice thing about that, as they showed off in a video which they actually released earlier today, so check it out on YouTube if you haven't seen it already, is it actually has a vehicle locking system. It basically creates clamps around the wheels, around the front and back wheels of the vehicle, and stops them from moving around. So we're finally going to have a transport trailer like that, where the vehicles won't slip and slide if you take a corner a little bit too fast, or if you slow down too quickly. They won't lurch forward off the back of the trailer. Really nice to see that. So yet another fantastic mod on the way from Black Sheep. Really looking forward to that coming out. And they've also showed it off with the MAN truck as well. They're obviously making a 1990s MAN truck variant of their hook lift, and that's looking really nice. Can't wait for that to come out, because that is definitely something I'm going to use on our farms a lot more, I think, than the 850 Legend. Simply, I think on the west coast it's going to look a lot better with a MAN truck than it is a big American muscle truck. So yeah, can't wait for that MAN truck to come out. No release information on that yet. That's still a long way off, but at some point it will come out, and we will get it on our farm as soon as it does. Come on, pallet. You want to shake yourself off here. No, pallet is wedged. Alright, I have to see if I can... I wonder if I can strap it down like that and then just slide out. Let's give that a try. No, I didn't think I could, because it's still technically attached, so it's part of this vehicle. Alright, let's try and drag this off on the ground. It just doesn't want to come off. This is the only thing I don't like about using the larger forks from a telehandler, is that, you know, if you're not careful, you will get something completely wedged like this. So I'll get this loose, I'll get it on the back of the trailer, and then we'll carry on with the rest of the things that we're doing. Well, somewhat ironically, you can see that the cultivator and the seeder have both left exactly the same strip, even though that they are very much different widths. So we'll have to manually seed that last little strip along there, and then once we've done that, we'll refill the seed, and then refill the fuel tank, and then we'll get started seeding a sunflower on field 1. So, as you can see, we're taking the tank with us as we're doing this final seeding job. You can actually see we are actually damaging our seed bed by driving over the top of it, but we are fixing... Oh no, we're not fixing that damage, are we? That's something we might have to be very wary of. Hopefully we haven't damaged that seed bed permanently. In fact, just to just be wary of that in the future. I think what I'm going to have to do... Oh, I've left a little patch unseeded like that. That's not good. I'm going to have to be very careful now. I'm now starting to worry as to whether or not I've permanently damaged that seed. Well, I guess we'll find out in the next stage. It does look as though we've possibly crushed. Even our cedar look is doing some damage. Or is changing that visual texture. I don't know if that's a permanent thing or not. So I have to be very wary of that in the future when it comes to planting. You know, and hopefully our weeder with care wheels will be absolutely fine and won't leave some interesting nasty ruts like that. We'll see. So with that field done, it's off to go and refuel and reseed. Interestingly enough, this is what I was going to say when I suddenly noticed that we were having some crop damage destruction issues. Normally we have those pipes that come out the back of the Terminator seed unit there, the seed tank. That would then attach to the Terminator seed frame. Obviously, they will not work when they're attached to this because it's a completely different piece of equipment. They're not animated for that. So when you are attached to something else, they just vanish. So you can see there that the sort of the ports there for all the pipes, just there. Look, underneath that sort of red frame that's popped up. Where the pipes would normally sort of get fed into, and the pipes themselves have just been completely removed. So there we go, fully restocked on seed and fuel. It's time for us to get our sunflower planting underway. And unfortunately our worker has left just a little strip on the end of the field that he won't do. So we'll manually have to do this little strip here. But it does mean that for the first time ever, I think, we have all three of our big buds working a field at the same time. So here we are laying down some fertilizer. Let's see, where is the 747? He's somewhere a little bit further down, cultivating away. And then at some point in the very near future, we should, hopefully, be able to see our other 450 coming up on the opposite side with a seed tank. Let's see if we can see that that happening. Oh, there we go. Just melting into the shot there. There is our other 450 seeding away. I've actually come infield a little bit. Oh, I've come infield way too much. Not even doing that little strip now. I wanted to come in so I could see if I could actually see it. So I've just kind of wasted a little bit of fertilizer there. Yeah, we've got enough in the tank to not have to worry about that. But yeah, there it is on the opposite side of the field. There is our other 450 seeding away. Our 747 is a bit further down with the cultivator. It was heading down in the same direction as us, and and around about the same kind of speed as well. So which is why we weren't catching up to that very well. We were only gaining on it by 2 miles an hour. But yeah, the 747 should actually be coming into view pretty soon, any second now actually. Let's just take a look. Yeah, there it is. It's just coming into view right now, look. So we actually have all three big buds, although the other one's faded off the screen now. I was hoping we could get all three on the same screen at the same time, but they're a little bit too spaced out for that to happen, unfortunately. But there we go, we have all three big buds working the field at the same time.
So the cultivating is finally finished. We can see about halfway through the seeding on this field. And then we obviously have our barley that we need to plant on field 5 after this as well. So still a little bit more work to go. It's slow going on this field, but we are making progress. Still quite a little bit to go, as you can see. But in the general scheme of things, you know, we have done an awful lot of seeding here. It'll be a lot quicker getting field 5 done. That'll take just maybe 15 minutes at most, I would imagine. This one, I think we've still probably got maybe half an hour worth of seeding to go. So we finished seeding on field 1. Now all that remains is to seed field 5. We couldn't do 5 at the same time because obviously we needed the seed tank from from this unit to be able to run the Terminator seeder. So we are going to probably have to get ourselves another tank of some kind at some point in the near future to prevent issues like that from happening again. But we'll get this sort of convoy over to our main farm. We'll drop off the Great Plains YP2425A. We'll pick up the Terminator seed rig, get everything sort of refilled, and we'll get our barley planted on field 5. So as we bring our seed drill into position, it's time to do the final job of the day, and that's get our barley crop planted. This will give us the straw that we need to be able to make TMR and also put bedding down for our cows and raise that productivity that they currently have at 63% all the way up to 100%. So we will also need to add a little bit more grass to what we have currently. If we take a look, you can see oh, excuse me. If we take a look at the animal chart, you can see 63% productivity, 102 cows. So we have gained a couple since we did our purchasing. We have no power food. We have no straw. Those will obviously be rectified once we've harvested this barley crop and swathed the straw at the same time. But if we also take a look at the cow yard up here, just there, let's jump into our loader here. You can see we have a load of chaff that we've already got in here. It's not a huge amount, but it's a good starting amount. We'll probably end up doing another sort of grass run between the field growing and being ready to harvest so that we can increase this, ferment this into silage. We'll have to do another hay run as well as getting some just basic grass to fill up our food troughs, because obviously our food trough for the cows is getting a little bit low. We only have a limited number of bales left for the sheep, and that's all the hay we have left, which isn't that much when in the grand scheme of things when it comes to making up TMR. So not for 100 cows anyway. It'll get us a nice starting amount, but it won't give us a lot in reserve. So we'll probably have to do another hay run at some point in the near future as well. And once again, you can see that the AI really doesn't like this end part of the field here. It's obviously come along, it's got to that point, it's stopped, turned around and gone back again. So we'll have to do that a little bit manually. We'll do that as soon as we get to the end here, so that we have a clean, full length pass to work against when we restart the AI. But we're going to end the episode here. We've done a lot of work. We've got everything that we needed to get done apart from just finishing off this little bit of field here. So we'll call it an episode here. In the next episode, we'll build and prep our area for our sugar beets. We have all the equipment that we need to at least get us started now. We'll sort of consolidate that into that area behind field 5 when you come back. We'll also make sure that all of our crops get fertilized as well, ready for the next round of harvesting. And then
and then we'll be ready to actually use our Holmer Pterodos for the first time, and get that beet harvest in, and then stashed away with those storage modules. We'll probably have to do a little bit of contract work in between as well, unless we get a nice price for something, in which case we can always look at trying to sell a little bit of crop and raise some extra cash that way. But that's the end of this episode, so we'll be back on Tuesday with American Outback, and then again on Friday with Fent Farm, before returning to Big Bud Farm on Sunday next week. Obviously, if we get any exciting mods that are worthy of a showcase of their own, I will perhaps look at doing one of those next week. I'm really hoping that at some point next week the West Coast goes live, in which case we'll have a map tour of that. And we do have Farming Legend currently in testing as well, which is another map, and as soon as that goes live we'll have a tour of that map as well. Plus, of course, we always have, you know, episodes of City Skylines every Monday to Friday. We have Prison Architect 3 times a week as well. That is really starting to get exciting and interesting now. We've got some very potentially dangerous prisoners in our prison, and a couple of celebrity prisoners as well. You'll have to tune in to see exactly who I'm talking about, but do please make sure you check those out as well, and plenty of other stuff to come in the future as well. So thanks for watching. I am Jim Bob, and I'll catch you again very soon.